Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be talking about fighters and their team, specifically some errors that a lot of them keep making at the moment. We've seen a lot of guys making really quick turnarounds. I'm sure you've seen, Charles Oliveira versus Rafael Fiziev was announced for October. And I believe it could be a serious mistake. And we keep seeing this happen in MMA. So I wanted to make this video sort of covering it. By the way, this isn't me just trying to bash on the fighters. I want to highlight a major issue within their teams and within just MMA in general. Because I really like a lot of these guys. Like, we see all of their interviews. They talk about their families. We see their families on Countdown. And we get to know a lot of these fighters. And I care about their long-term well-being. And I've been meaning to speak about this over the last couple of weeks, but with the announcement of Charles Oliveira's fight, I thought that this would be the perfect time to discuss this. But jumping in with the first person I want to talk about, which was Charles Oliveira, who's going to be fighting Rafael Fiziev on October 11th in Rio, straight after being flatline KO'd by Ilia Topuria in 29th of June, which is a really, really bad thing to look at. I'm not necessarily saying Charles loses this fight. We'll see closer to the time when I actually make official predictions. But I do believe that he's giving Fiziev a shot in the fight that he wouldn't normally be given. And Charles is also risking career-changing damage or life-altering damage in this fight. I know every fight you're risking that, but you're risking it a lot more if you're coming off your first flatline KO. And the thing is that this fight is so close to his last fight that he's either having to not follow the concussion protocol or not do a full training camp. Either one seems like a terrible idea, and either option is very reckless. Fans should be worried about his health, not just if he'll win this fight. And the thing is that makes no sense about this, is that this is the faster turnaround that he'll make if he wins or loses a close decision. If you remember the Ahmed Sarukian fight at UFC 300, it took him 9 pay-per-views to come back after that, and he took barely any damage. If you remember the Islam Makhachev fight, I know he got dropped in that one, but he came back again like 8 or 9 months after that. And he took very little damage apart from getting dropped by that right hook in the fight. It'd be different if Charles Oliveira was like Kevin Holland, fighting every couple of months no matter the damage he takes. I'd be a bit less upset then. But it's because it's his literal shortest turnaround in years. And it's like straight after his first flatline KO. It's like he was thinking, the activity period starts now. Like, I don't get that. Why didn't the activity period start after a split decision close loss that you took no damage in? Why is the activity period coming after the worst concussion you'll have? You'll probably still have a headache when you're coming into the fight. Your shortest turnaround in years against a striker through and through. What do your coaches think about this concussion recovery term? Like, what do they do about this concussion protocol? Do they just ignore it or something? I don't understand this at all. I don't get why the manager as well isn't stepping in being like, hey, look, I get it. If you were getting a Max Holloway fight for the BMF, we would kind of get that. But Fiziev's ranked 10, just sit out of this one. But like, no, they're not saying that. Even though Fiziev's ranked 10 with 2 losses in his last 3 to Justin Gaethje, a guy who Charles Oliveira beat in 1 round. What does this win do for his stock? What does this win do for his stock that means that he has to risk so much to step in this cage? Like, why couldn't he wait until January next year for a BMF fight with Holloway? Or at least even waiting for a singular top contender. Or just fight a grapple. Like, it seems every other fight in the top 10 would have boded better for Charles Oliveira than this Rafael Fiziev fight. I get that sometimes it's the fighter themselves pushing for these quick returns, but someone needs to sit them down and tell them, think this through. Tell them, think about your kids, think about everything, think about what sort of damage you're going to take. Think about how much you want to be able to read sentences when you're 50 years old. Think about how you don't want to be stuttering. Because that's what the fight game is. The fight game is you're trying to hurt each other. You're trying to put life-altering damage on each other. So why are you helping your opponent do that anyway? It makes no sense. Jumping on to the next person I wanted to talk about, which is Nikita Krylov. We've seen him come out twice this year. This one really frustrated me. He came back after 2 years with a I think it was post shoulder surgery, had some issues because he's obviously from Ukraine. He definitely had a very rough 2 years, and I do really sympathize with Krylov over that. But then he comes back against Dominic Reyes. I really thought he was going to win that fight. I actually told multiple people he was the lock of the card, which was so embarrassing. But he took the first KO loss he's had since 2013. 12 years, his first KO loss. Worst KO loss as well. The first one was not nearly as bad. He was shot off cold, stiff by Dominic Reyes. And in 2013, when he first got KO'd, he returned 5 months later, and he got a good win over Walt Harris. But at the time, that was seen as not ideal, but it was manageable. And even then, at the time, it made sense. He wasn't on a very good contract. He was probably getting 5-5. So he really needed to fight soon after, just so he could probably pay bills. But now, he should be on like 120 for 120. So he fought in April. He fought in April 12th at UFC 314. He should have enough money to last the end of the year. Or his manager should be able to get some sort of like deals in Russia or in Ukraine, wherever he wants. I remember back in the day, he wanted more promotion in Russia. Surely his team could have somehow gotten some appearances here and there, a couple of $1,000 here and there. I know it's not ideal to do that, but it's better than coming in at 3 months later after a brutal TKO loss. The thing is that I would have thought he would have taken 6 to 7 months off minimum after a KO loss that nasty. But 2 weeks after it, he's booked against Bogdan Guskov. Under 3 months later, doesn't take the 30-day concussion protocol. There's either he either does no training camp, or he has no concussion protocol. Either way is really bad. And you see good coaches that coach guys like Justin Gaethje, or coaches that coach Max Holloway. They make them take 6 to 12 months off everything before they start training again. And that's the thing. These guys aren't taking any time off at all. Max waited after the Ilia Topuria KO for a while before facing Dustin Poirier. Gaethje did the same thing before facing Fiziev, and it worked. They had very good results in their next fight. But Krylov, no. He needs to come back in against another counterpuncher. That's exactly what Krylov needs. He needs to be right back in there against a guy who can do the exact same thing that Dominic Reyes did to you under 3 months ago. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's not like Guskov's chinny either. It's not like he's on a losing streak either. He's a dangerous guy. He's on a 3-fight winning streak with 2 KO wins and a finish as well. And he had a longer layover than Krylov did. He had a 6-month layoff. Krylov had less than 3. Krylov's team really failed him in this one. They should have booked him for October or November. It just makes no sense to book him this quickly because you don't know the lasting damage this is going to have over him. You don't know what this is going to do for the rest of his career. It's a really bad loss. 2 of them in a row. 2 of flatline KOs. 2 extra, 10 extra follow-ups whilst he's been KO that he didn't need to take. Makes no sense. His team need to be sacked straight away. They should be sitting him down saying, look, you're not fighting this fight. I don't care. I think some of these guys need to be more ride or die for their fighter. They need to be saying, look, I know you need the money. Let me work this out. Let me find you some appearances to make a couple of $1,000 here or there. And the managers need to say, hey, I'm not going to be a part of your team if this is the position if this is the way that you're managing your own career. I don't want to manage you if you're going to be taking life-changing damage each time and coming back 3 months later. This is what these managers need to be doing. They need to be just being like, I'm not going to think about my money. I just want my fighter to do well. One thing about Ali Abdelaziz that I've always thought that he does quite well compared to other managers, you don't see his fighters doing this, even though it makes it for a bit less fun of a sport, that fighters aren't stepping up on short notice, they're not doing quick turnarounds between fights, but his fighters are never doing this, and I respect that, at least. I don't like him as a person at all, but I respect that he has his fighters back. He makes sure that they don't do dumb things like this. Moving on to the last one that I wanted to talk about. This is the one that hits most closest to home for me. Sadly, it's Alexander Volkanovski. Give me one moment. I know that this is a really bad look. My computer's terrible. It doesn't work very well. And it's going to lag for a quick second as I move my camera up. Oh, this is so hard. So sorry, everyone. You have to bear with me for 10 seconds. Okay, we're good. This one really hurts me to say, just because I think Volk's team messed this up so badly twice in a row with career-defining moments. If Volk doesn't make these errors, we could be talking about Volk as like a top 3 of all-time fighter. But he didn't. His team didn't make these errors. And the thing is that it was back-to-back fights that they made these errors in career-defining moments. He was just coming off a massive, beautiful loss to Islam Makhachev, where it was 5 rounds. It was a very close fight. And it boosted his stock so much. He was still the pound-for-pound guy. And then he comes up against Yair a couple of pay-per-views later. Beats Yair, ground-and-pound TKO. He's at his career peak. He then gets surgery after the Yair fight on July 18th. All well and good. He's looking to come back against Ilia Topuria. It was looking like a 288, UFC 288. Didn't take too much damage at UFC 290. He was getting some recovery time out of there. He was drinking beers on the couch. He had about two and a half months worth of recovering, drinking beers on the couch, and then he gets a call 10 days before Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira at UFC 292, hearing that he can step in at short notice, and he does it. He takes the fight. He knows that the Islam fight was close. His team knows that the Islam fight was close. And they still put him in there at 10 days notice. Like, I know some of you are going to be saying, oh, but the first Islam fight was really close. Yes, it was really close, but he still lost that fight. He didn't blow Islam out of the water. So what makes him think that Islam, who's going to be better prepared, an Islam who has worked on the errors that he made in the Volk fight, an Islam that is on a full training camp, an Islam that knew he was going to be fight, is going to do worse against a Volk who doesn't have a camp, who's coming on 10 days notice, who's coming off a surgery to his elbow, who's coming off drinking beers 10 days before? Why did Volk's team think he was going to win that? Like, I know at the time, I could be saying hindsight's 2020, and like, maybe people thought he would win that, but realistically, why did you think he was going to win that? He doesn't have KO power. He doesn't one-shot KO people. He's going to have worse conditioning now. He's coming off a surgery. He looks fat. He's drinking beers a week before, 10 days before the fight. What makes you think that the odds are stacking into your favor? That's my biggest bone I have to pick with it. It's like, the team should be thinking about these consequences, not Volk. I don't give Volk any really, like, a lot of these fighters, I really don't give them that much flack for it, just because John McCarthy said it best. The fighters should be always ready to go. The fighters should be thinking that they can defeat anyone on a moment's notice. The fighters in the fight should be thinking, no matter how much they're losing, that they can pull it out of the bag and win the fight. That's the way that the fighters are supposed to think. But it's the team's job to protect the fighter from themselves. I'll say that again. It's the team's job to protect the fighter from themselves. If you're a younger amateur fighter right now hearing this, or if you're a coach yourself, you got to think about this when you've got a fighter. You've got these guys who are the toughest humans in the planet. You got to save them for themselves. If you think these guys who are tough as nails are going to make the best decisions out there, then you're completely wrong. You don't know your fighter if that's the case. You don't know Volkanovski if you think that he doesn't want to come back 3 months after getting KO'd by a head kick. It's his team's job to protect him from himself. Volk's team led him into a fight he couldn't win, and it really costed them. And that's the thing, that mistake, yes, I guess you can chalk it up to being overconfident. I'll accept that. But then what follows is even worse. After that KO, Volk's team should be like, okay, we take some months off. 3 months, I don't see you in the gym. Maybe we do some game planning. Maybe I come over on Friday night, we watch some tape. But we don't see Volk in the gym for 3 months. That's how they should think. Ideally, they should be waiting until UFC 303, UFC 305, one of those ones, 10 to 12 months off minimum. Instead, they're booking him 3 months and 27 days after. That's a terrible idea. This is another one of these guys, another one who's not following the concussion protocol at all. 30 days is nothing. And the thing is, this time he fought at lightweight against Islam Makhachev, so he's dropping back down to featherweight in, again, this really short time period. He really should have been taking 3 months off before resuming training. And in the Ilia fight, even if the result was the same, you can't tell me that looked like the same Volk. I see people like Lucas Tracy saying that was peak Volk. He looked really good. He was really fast. He was landing that jab, landing those leg kicks. I believe all of that. I agree with all of that. He was really fast, was landing those leg kicks. But I counted like 25 times in the first 9 minutes that Volk did that pullback with his right hand at his chin and his left hand at his waist. And that's a non-very Volk-like thing to do. In the Lopez fight, which was 25 minutes, he only did that maybe 4 or 5, 6 times. Same thing with the Holloway trilogy. Did it quite a few times, maybe 10 times in those ones, but it wasn't the same thing as the Ilia Topuria fight. And I saw Alex Volkanovski talking about this in an interview. I think it was with Demetrius Johnson. But he was talking about how in his training camp, he wasn't really able to train the way that he used to. Just because the whole time he's trying to follow that concussion protocol, trying to not take any damage. But that's making him fight differently in training. That's making him pull back more in training. It's making him avoid combat more in training. And that's not what Volk got him to the dance. That's not what got Volk 4 title defenses. That's not what made him go 25-1 in the UFC's in the featherweight division in general. It just makes no sense. Like, why would you put Volk straight back in there? If you remember Manny Pacquiao, after he lost to Marquez, his team made him take 10 months off before he even started training again. He took 10 months off. He wasn't allowed to train throughout that entire time. And I would even argue that Volk is he's sort of like the Pacquiao of the MMA world. Like, Pacquiao is like in the top 10 of the best boxers of all time, at least in my books he is. Volk's probably in the top 10 as well of the best MMA fighters of all time. So it's like, why can't we have this same sort of mindset between Volk and as we do Manny Pacquiao, a generational talent? Why aren't Volk's team looking at what Manny Pacquiao did and think, wow, we can still come back well from this fight? Because these KOs, they have damage onto his career. They have damage onto the rest of his life. I don't want to see Volk in 40 years struggling with his life. I want to see Volk cooking with Volk until he's 75, 85 years old. Still sharp as a I was going to say sharp as a fork. That's a terrible analogy. But it's still sharp as a machete. We need Volk out there forever. We need him doing these sports bet ads, looking all old man Volk. We need that from all of these guys. I'm sure all of these guys' families feel the same. So managers, coaches, do better. We don't need to see this. We don't see this in boxing nearly as much because their managers and coaches seem to care about their fighters more. That's it. I'm going to be doing a part 2 of this next week with a few more examples and then a part 3 the week after, just because I want to do some more examples similar-ish to this one, and then I want to do some where fighters didn't get the towel thrown in, because that's another issue that we see in boxing. The towel's thrown in all the time. MMA, it's never thrown in. We'll see Muhammad Yahya get dropped 7 times and the towel not get thrown in. Well, he kind of got dropped like 10 times in that fight. So let me know if you want to see those videos. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.